Hi, my name is Tom Brewitt. I'm a relationship expert who helps gay and queer men improve their relationships. Today, I'm going to be talking with you about the agreement stage of gay and queer relationship development. And I'm going to be offering you 6 steps that you can take to have more satisfying and fulfilling agreements in your partnership. Let me start by explaining what the agreement stage is in relationship development. I've been going over a series where I've been describing the 7 stages of queer and gay relationship development. And if you're interested in that, you can go back and hear previous videos where I do an overview of all of the different 7 stages. This is the 5th stage of relationship development, the agreements stage. This comes after the 2nd queer adolescence stage of relationship development, the honeymoon stage, the discovering differences stage, and the exploration stage. So after you have gone through the different stages that I've just described and you've created a solid foundation for your relationship, and then you've started to discover some of the differences that exist between you and your partner or partners, it's important to go back and re-clarify the agreements in your relationship. I think this is an important stage in all relationships, not just queer relationships, but I think it's especially important in queer relationships for a few reasons that I'm going to go into right now. With queer relationships, we, as I've said many times in the previous videos that I've described, we are not necessarily on the same relationship escalator as our straight counterparts. A relationship escalator, if you're not familiar with that term, is the societal and familial expectations that we are encouraged to go through when we're developing a relationship. So starting with dating, and then marriage, and then kids, and then move to the suburbs, and all the rest of that stuff. Queer folks, we have been exploring relationship anarchy, which means throwing off any of societal pressures about relationships and creating or co-creating relationships that work specifically for us and our unique partnerships. Because every partnership out there, whether queer or straight, is different and unique. And that's really wonderful because you can create a partnership that works for the unique individuals that are a part of that actual relationship. But let me not get off on a tangent there too much. Many of us in the queer community are in different relationship structures. Some of us are in monogamous relationships. I think up to 50% of gay male people report being in a monogamous relationship. And then many of the other people who are in relationships are in various different forms of consensual non-monogamy. That could look like polyamory or open relationships or monogamish or kind of whatever term you want to use that feels appropriate for you and your partnership. When you are in a relationship that is not necessarily monogamous or isn't monogamous, it's really important to be very clear about what the relationship agreements are that you are going to abide by in that partnership. Kort, who is a gay psychotherapist and pretty popular on TikTok, he recommends that people, even in monogamous relationships, negotiate what monogamy means to them. This is really important because some people in monogamous relationships think it's okay to go out and make out with a person at a bar. Some people think it's okay to flirt with somebody that you meet at a restaurant or whatever. And other people who are in monogamous relationships would say, that is not my kind of monogamy. So it's really important that you're very clear with your partner or partners. What does monogamy mean to you? If you're in a consensually non-monogamous relationship, it's really important to say, okay, what does an open relationship look like to us? What are the agreements that are important to the different people who are involved? Because clear communication is is one really important step to avoid betrayals and hurt down the line. It's not just relationship structures, though, that are important to make agreements around. Let's talk about finances for a moment. Many of us in the queer male community have trouble talking about money, and there's lots of different reasons for that. But if you were socialized and raised as a male in this world, in this culture that we live in, there are certain expectations that we put on male-identified folks. Success, and success means earning a lot of money, and capitalism and all the systems in place support that and encourage that and reward that. So if you are in a relationship, for example, where one person is more financially successful and one person is less financially successful, that can create all sorts of conflict. And then you can avoid talking about money at all and avoid talking about and making agreements on what your shared financial life will look like. And if you avoid making agreements about that, then there are lots of things that can come down the pike that you can't benefit from, like retirement savings, or the list goes on and on from there. So it's really important that we are very clear about what our financial agreements are. This is especially true if you have decided not to get married for whatever reason. Marriage is a business contract as much as we want to also say and support that it is a love relationship. There are certain terms and rights and legal things that come with being married. So make sure you're really thinking about that and talking about that before you decide to do something like get married. Another topic that comes up a lot in queer relationships is sex. So if you are in a non-monogamous relationship, what are your agreements around sex with each other and with other people? So many relationship conflicts come from unspoken agreements. And so we think we know what our partner or partners think about something, and we act from that assumption, and that's when conflict and lots of pain and hurt can come as a result of acting from assumptions. So be really, really clear and intentional when you're talking about agreements. I did say I was going to give you 6 clear things that you can do to have more successful agreement conversations, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. But before I do, I just want to really, really emphasize how important this stage is in relationship development. If you're coming out of the stage where you've been exploring your differences in your partnership, and you have discovered all sorts of really exciting parts of your identity and interests and friendships and all sorts of stuff that there can be, of course, space for inside of a healthy relationship. What if you don't have those intentional conversations with your partner? What's going to happen then? That's when really unproductive conflict can come. Because I just want to go back to that unspoken agreement piece that I mentioned before. So many conflicts come from unspoken agreements being violated, and one or both or many of the members of the couple or partnership are not even aware that an agreement was violated. So this is a really, really important stage to return to, and to return to often, because as I've said in previous videos, these stages are not always linear. Sometimes we move from one stage to the next, and it's important to have that flexibility and fluidity when we're thinking about this structure of 7 stages of queer relationships. Let me move into now the 6 steps for making clear agreements with your partner or partners. The first step is differentiation. Differentiation, I could do a whole video series on that, and I probably will at some point. So what is differentiation? Differentiation is the ability to go inward and know what your wants, feelings, needs, and desires are, and then to tolerate the tension when you explore your partner or partner's wants, needs, feelings, and desires, knowing that they may be different than your own. So differentiation is really kind of knowing where you are and where you stop, and where your partner is and where your partner stops and starts. With differentiation, you're able to take risks in a relationship and to share important, vulnerable, sometimes risky things about what's important to you, and really getting down to the core of what's most important to you. When you are starting with any sort of relationship agreement, it's very important to start from a place of differentiation. So the first really important thing that you can do before beginning to make agreements with your partner is differentiate and get very, very clear about what's important to you and what's important to your partner or partners. The second thing about making a really clear agreement, make sure that you have some time set aside to have these discussions. Don't try and have relationship agreement discussions while you are, getting ready to go to work in the morning, or trying to make dinner and feeling stressed. Set aside intentional time to have these conversations together. The third thing that I think is really important is make space for dynamic agreements. What do I mean by dynamic agreements? Well, when you make an agreement, it's not meant to stay there statically forever. over time, things are going to change. What's important to you, what's important to your partner may, shift over the course of weeks, months, years. So make space for dynamic agreements that allow for things to evolve and change. Through discussions, of course. You're not going to just automatically or unilaterally change an agreement without having a discussion with your partner or partners. But expect that change will come. The more that you explore, the more that you're going to learn what's really important to you. The fourth thing, try to be really honest and authentic. And, whether we want to use the term radical honesty or, whatever term you want to use here, it's really important that you're honest when you're talking about what's important to you, because entire agreements may get decided based on what's important to you, what you share. So if you're holding something back, let's say, for example, you maybe are somebody who wants to have an open relationship and you want to have anonymous sex. You don't only want to have three-ways with your partner or partners. It's really important that you share that, even if it may potentially upset the people that you're talking with. If we hold things inside because we're worried about how other people react, that is when conflict can erupt into a way that's really corrosive in any relationship. The fifth thing that is important with relationship agreements, make sure that you really, really approach your partner or partners with respect and love. It can be really challenging to make agreements and then, to renegotiate them over time. And feelings can run hot, and that's okay. But remember, that you love and you respect the person or people that you are in a relationship with. That's something really important to keep in the back of your mind. And that connects to number 6, which is approach any conversation, but especially an agreement conversation, with assuming positive intent from your partner or partners. This is something that the Gottmans really emphasize, and lots of different relationship models emphasize, how important it is to assume that your partner or partners are approaching you with positive intent. And that if your partner says something, you're assuming that they mean the best. And if you don't think that your partner means the best and you think that they're out to get you, that's a whole different conversation. And I really recommend that you seek out the support of a relationship therapist. Just to go over those 6 important aspects of an important agreement conversation. Number 1, differentiation. Number 2, setting aside time to have these conversations in an intentional way. Number 3, make space for dynamic agreements that will change over time with conversation and renegotiation, of course. Number 4, absolute trust and honesty. That's got to be an important pillar of any conversation around agreements. Number 5, respect and love. Approach your partner with respect and love. And number 6, assume positive intent in all directions. The next time that you are going to have an agreement conversation with your partner or partners, remember these 6 aspects that I shared with you of how to have a successful conversation.